blessed good morning to one and all, my viewers and subscribers here at St. John's Parish Church in the churchyard, and I'm looking towards the grave of our Prime Minister. I think he was the sixth Prime Minister. Let me see. Barrow, Tom Adams, Bree St. John will be the third. Sandy Fair will be the fourth. Yeah, he would have been about the sixth. David Thompson would have been about the sixth Prime Minister of Barbados, who served briefly from 2008 to 2010. David Thompson would have celebrated his anniversary of death yesterday. First of all, yesterday was my birthday. I was born the 23rd of October, so yesterday was my birthday. Today is the 24th now. I had a good day. It was quiet. Went to work as usual, and that was it. I don't really keep no big fanfare for my birthday. Anyhow, David Thompson was born on the 25th of December 1961 in London, England, and died the 23rd of October 2010 in Barbados. He served briefly as Prime Minister from 2008 to 2010. He was born to Barbadian parents. He lived most of his life in Barbados. Born to Barbadian parents, a white Barbadian mother, Margaret Knight, who is still alive. He's about 94 now. But I'm not sure if his father, if he's still alive too. But I know he died and left both of them. David Thompson, David John Howard Thompson. Queen's Counsel and Member of Parliament. So I'm looking at the East Coast here now. This is Pothouse Village in St. John, down here. So this is the countryside. Country life is at its best. St. John Parish Church sits on top of a hill in the beautiful rural parish of St. John, situated to the east side of the island. Bath Beach over here, Bath Beach in St. John. The grave of Trevor Delille Davis, born the 6th of August 1931 and died the 14th of July 1973 in a motor vehicle accident at Boarded Hall in St. George by the four cross where the roundabout is now. So the name Trevor's Way, which is around that stretch going on by the port side, was named after him. The port, going on by the port, that road near Lover's Lane, outside by the Pelican Village, well, that area is named after him. He lost his life in a motor vehicle accident. Trevor Delille Davis. Richard Haynes of Newcastle. This is the sundial here. So this is Pothouse Village. Looking in a southeasterly direction, as I said before, we can see Bath Beach in St. John down here, and we can see all across the East Point Lighthouse in St. Philip to the southeast over here. So all here is the Atlantic Ocean. So in Barbados is bordering the Atlantic Ocean and the Caribbean Sea. Barbados is an island in the West Indies. Off the eastern Caribbean chain, 166 square miles, one of the smallest Caribbean islands, one of the small islands, not a big island. You don't have much resources either, like hills and valleys and springs and rivers, like how other Caribbean countries like Jamaica, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Trinidad, even Guyana, and so on have springs, have rivers and mountains and so on. But we still have something to offer. Our main source of survival now is tourism. One time it was sugar, but now it is tourism. Okay, let me make my rounds through the churchyard. Our main survivor is tourism. Henry Vernon Taylor. Come back at the St. John Polyclinic. Taylor family grave. So this church is open daily so that tourists and other persons can come and tour the church and look at the view as well. Thomas Henry Seeley, who was buried upright because he wanted to see the view. In memory of Thomas Henry Seeley, son of Sir John Seeley and Aunt Isabella Seeley. Born 1845 and died in 1904. The grave of Mary Howell Haynes of Newcastle, St. John, Newcastle Plantation in St. John, was one of the last of her family members to die. Died the 22nd of July 1957 at the age of 97. The Honorable Richard A. Haynes of Easy Hall Plantation in St. John, and the eldest son of the Honorable J. A. Haynes of Newcastle Plantation, also in St. John, died May 8, 1937 at the age of 81 years. He's also buried upright Ferdinando Paleologus, which is also said to be buried under the organ loft in the church before being placed out here. So they don't bury people in this cemetery anymore, except as a by grave. The grave of Henry Newell St. John, grandfather of Sahara Bernard St. John, who was the third Prime Minister of Barbados, Boy St. John. And this is where the black section with the black planter class and black. This is called the colored tomb, the colored section. The grave of Charles Miller Austin of Marlborough Plantation in St. John. He was the first black man to own a plantation in St. John. Born May 26, 1857 and died the 11th of August 1942. And his wife Martha, born 1862 and died in 1948. And Ambrosine A. Barrow, a daughter of Ambrosine Barrow, born 1880 and died in 1942. And daughter of Ada Bridgman, born in 1907 and died in 1990. Bernard Leslie Barrow. He was also a relative of the Right Excellent Errol Walton Barrow, who was the first Prime Minister, father of independence and national hero. Eustace Gill, husband of Marie Gill, born 1903 and died in 1993. The Reverend Canon Eric Payne, born March 25, 1924 and died September 23, 2021. Long-standing priest, rector of St. John from January 20th, 1968 to March 31st, 1989. E. Thorne Gollett, the grandfather of Ralph Thorne, who is the current leader of the opposition for the Democratic Labour Party. Ivan Wilfred Weeks and Winifred Ursula Weeks. All the black planter class and their families. So St. John has some of the oldest graves in the Caribbean and in Barbados. The map showing you the left tombs in the churchyard. Before I go any further, this is the grave of Iris. The grave of Ivy Branch Bradshaw, Nee McConney, who died the 30th of August 1974 at 91 years, and her daughter Irish Branch Banaki, Portuguese Guyanese or white Guyanese, who lived in Barbados. She was a horticulturist. She died on the 2nd of September 1988 at the age of 73. She was a horticulturist and she was the founder of Andromeda Botanical Gardens, which is in St. Joseph above Bathsheba. And then when she died in 1988, the gardens was entrusted to the Barbados National Trust. St. John is a beautiful parish, and St. John Parish is a beautiful Gothic church. The East Coast here. The grave of Samuel Lewis Mears, who was born in 1834 and died in 1922. By grace are you saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. This is the gift of God, Ephesians 11 verse 8, erected by his children. By the way, I'm a Mears. I'm a Moor. My father is a Moor, Satchmore, that sings, or that used to sing years ago with the Sand Pebbles group. Satchmore is my father, and he is from St. George. But I'm a Mears from my mother's side. My mother is a Mears from Branchbury, St. Joseph. The Mearses in Barbados mostly originated in St. Joseph and St. John, little widespread throughout St. John, St. Thomas, and other parishes, but mostly of origin in Barbados from St. John and St. Joseph. My mother is a Mears. Her father was a Mears. Her mother was a Levine married to a Mears. So my mother, one of my aunts, and two uncles are Mearses from St. Joseph and Branchbury. Well, my first two aunts, which is the first two, my grandmother's first two children before the marriage, are Levines from Carrington's village in St. Thomas, later moved to the Vault Road in the same parish, St. Thomas. All the East Coast, northeasternly now. So this is all the Atlantic Ocean. So, Mears family. The past priest, Canon Jeffrey Mears, I think he might be a little distant family to me. Even though he is from Christchurch. Joseph Brace Mears, a native of this island, and for more than 40 years a resident in the colony of British Guiana, to be gathered unto my people, bury me with my fathers. So tourists come to visit this church daily. I will come back to this view shortly. St. John Parish Church. St. John Parish Church, first erected in 1645, destroyed by fire and rebuilt in 1676. Destroyed by hurricane and rededicated in 1836. As you can see, the church has a spiral staircase. This is the statue of Madonna and Child with the infant St. John beneath her feet. So there are some tombs under our feet as well. All the talking, forgot to mention. First of all, this is the marble baptismal font. So St. John is the parish in Barbados in which the white Barbadian population originated from. They came down to Barbados back in the 16 and 1700s as indentured servants from Scotland and Ireland. And they came as indentured servants from Scotland and Ireland. The most noted white Barbadians that originated from St. John are Sir Charles O'Neill Williams, known as Cow Williams because of his initials, C-O-W. He has C.O. Williams Construction Company and so on. He's dead now, but his son and family probably runs the business too. And his brother Ralph Busy Williams, they are white Barbadian entrepreneurs from St. John, as well as Professor Henry Fraser, who we will come to, who we will talk about in this plaque over here. Professor Henry Fraser was a lecturer at university and a heart surgeon. He is still alive. He's still a historian. And also Sir Kiffin Simpson, the guy who owns Simpson Motors, which is now Inchcape. Simpson Motors is the agents for Suzuki vehicles in Barbados. They also specialize in Isuzu, Chevrolet, Mercedes-Benz, and Mitsubishi vehicles. Well, Sir Kiffin Simpson is from St. John. He owns the Sol gas stations in Barbados and in the Caribbean. He leased them out to different franchises, so different people will own them, but he don't own them individually, but he owns the whole company. Sol, S-O-L, you will see that on some gas stations in the Caribbean. He is the owner of them. He is the founder of them. And Pastor Emeritus Holmes Williams. Holmes Williams was the founder of the People's Cathedral, formerly Evangel Tabernacle. This is the pulpit here that's made out of 6 different types of wood. This is the reredos here and the high altar. The altar. St. John is an Anglican church, by the way. You can see the beautiful stained glass windows. Of William Leslie, first rector of St. John from 1653 to 1676, grandson of the 5th Laird of King Craigie and great-great-grandson by his grandmother of John Leslie, 8th Baron of Barroquin. Alvin Jones, in memory of Alvin E. Simmons, rector of St. John from 1951 to 1962. And in memory of Dudley Moore, rector of this parish from 1943 to 1950, canon and Ruberdine, a faithful and wise steward. Clement Culpin, rector of this church from 1928 to 1943. Charles Clark Hunt, rector of this parish from 1904 to 1925. And Evan McGregor Seeley, rector of this parish from 1879 to 1904. Beautiful stained glass windows. Behind the altar, the choir stalls here where the choir sits. The organ console here. Henry Francis Hart of Ashford Estate in this parish. For many years, parochial treasurer of St. John, died the 16th of July 1916 at the age of 75. And Mary Lucretia Hart, wife of the above, died January 29, 1920 at the age of 78. Henry Francis Hart, son of H.F. Henry Francis Hart and Mary Lucretia Hart, who died in the USA on the 6th of October 1961 at the age of 87 years. So this is the Haynes family, planter class, family who also was responsible for the building of this church. Carlton Haynes of Newcastle, St. John, born the 7th of February 1858 and died at Woodlands, Hampshire, England in November 1945. So this church is flanked by lovely fluted columns more than one column to form one column. So this is a beautiful Anglican church here in Barbados. And the pipes for the organ here. The pulpit here is made out of 6 different types of wood. This spiral staircase. St. John. Sure.
You understand? But if they go behind it, somebody attack the door when they come to me. I see people get robbed behind there already.
Yeah, morning.
I come here looking for the purse. They'll come to me. When we call the police,
So, looking down the church view in St. John. And this is all the East Coast here. Northeasternly now. We have St. Andrew and St. Joseph. The northeastern side, you can see all down to Bathsheba and St. Joseph and the Barclays Park Beach. We can even see St. Margaret's Church, which is the sister parish to St. John, St. Margaret's Anglican Church down the hill here. You can see it right here, St. Margaret's Anglican Church at Martins Bay, St. John. We can see all of Martins Bay and St. John from here as well. So this church sits on top of a cliff. St. John Church sits on a cliff overlooking the East Coast. All the Atlantic Ocean here. Thank you guys for watching now. Have a blessed morning.